It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
Welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series, which moves to Delaware Park this weekend for the Jagow Stakes. That's the 3-year-old and up sprint division. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. We're glad to have you with us. Coming up, the latest developments with sports betting and horse racing. But first, Ray, let's talk about last weekend's Dwyer Stakes. Not the race, of course. No one's talking about that. What they're talking about is the odds changes that happened when the gates opened, after the gates opened. It's this issue of the perception of past posting, where you have the winner, Forense Fire's odds going from 5-1 to 5-2 in a flash. We've talked about this before. It hasn't been fixed. There's still a perception that something is awry here, even though it may not be technically. How do we fix this problem?
Well, I'm not sure it's fixable unless you take some drastic action. You wrote about the the computer players a couple years ago, the people who have algorithms set up to look for value. And these computer players, and there are a number of them, are usually offshore, and they almost always wait until the very last minute to place their bets. And in some cases, they actually have their own ADW companies. And in other cases, they're working through rebaters. In every case, usually it's going through a simulcast hub somewhere else. Lewiston, Maine is a dog track, for example, that handles some of these offshore rebaters, and it just takes time for the money to cycle through. And unless you cut off wagering before, and I don't think that's a solution, if you cut off wagering when the first horse goes in the gate, that's been tried before, and it cost money. I mean, it cost handle. They could see handle dropping. So I don't know that it's fixable, but the players have to understand these are last-minute bets. Nobody is getting into the pools late.
Yeah, I know. I don't believe that anything nefarious is going on at all. I think it's the system that's been created, but you have to dig deep on this to figure out why it's happened, and maybe there is a solution. Part of the problem is that originally, tracks and the industry as a whole thought simulcasting was an afterthought. It's not an afterthought now, it's the whole thought. That's where the money comes from. So, but the system was created, and the rebaters, the computer hubs and those that service these big whales that bet a lot of money, they figured out that the tracks were kind of poo-pooing simulcasting. So they said, okay, we will cater to you. Therefore, we will rebate you. We will give you a better price than the tracks will. Therefore, that you have all these offshore hubs that now people use. So the problem is that the system that should be in place is not catering to these big players. And so you need something that will.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a technology problem, if the technology is just not there, or if it's a structural problem. I don't understand why an offshore rebate company goes through a dog track in Maine. It seems to me that their contract should be with the host track or with a tote company, so that the money goes directly there instead of taking a pit stop in Lewiston, Maine, so that it slows the system down. I don't think there's any question about that. So, part of the problem is structure, which of course racing has none.
Yeah, we've talked about that endlessly. Hello, National Commission. Hello, National Oversight. But the technology certainly does exist to fix this problem. You know how I know this? Because it happens every day in races around the world. It's called exchange wagering. And this is something that we only have in New Jersey in this country. The racing industry is completely missing out on this. It is just so dumb, in my opinion, that the commissioners in various states, regulators, are turning a blind eye to exchange wagering. Because it's not just in-race betting, which, by the way, shows you how precise you can be. You can have in-race wagering where a few strides between, in the race, you can see the odds shift. So clearly you can make very precise bets with exchange wagering. But it's not just that, it's fixed odds. So you can actually lock in your odds when you make your wager. And then this problem would go away.
Well, that's right. And fixed odds is what you get in sports betting. Sports betting, which is now legal in New Jersey and will soon be coming to a state near you, that's all. It's basically risk management. William Hill does the risk management at Monmouth Park. TVG Betfair, now part of FanDuel, will be doing risk management of bets, sports bets at the Meadowlands. And there are other companies that do this. And fixed odds is nothing more than risk management. It's like the legal bookmakers you see in England and some other countries.
But risk management is also what the computer players are doing. They're doing exactly the same thing, but they're using the parimutuel system. They're saying, right, there's an overlay there with Firenze Fire. He shouldn't be 5-1. He should be lower than that. I'm going to put a lot of money on him. But the problem is the smaller players, and the smaller players always are complaining about this, and rightly so, they're kind of getting beat up by the bigger players who are drowning the odds with their money. And so this system of exchange wagering where you could have fixed odds would fix this problem. Then everyone would be happy because they could lock in the odds. They feel that's where the value is. But right now, the big players are killing the odds for the little ones.
Yeah, it's funny with the Firenze Fire. Dean Towers wrote about this, and he's Pull the Pocket blog is a guy that is a proponent of fixed odds wagering and exchange wagering. And he wrote about how these guys were probably looking at the exchange and seeing what the value was there. And then they everybody bet, and all of a sudden Firenze Fire went from an overlay to probably a little bit of an underlay, although the way he won like a 1-to-5 shot. So it's funny how maybe sometimes they see the value and then it's gone because they overplay it.
I think the theme is the same as it's been for many of the Friday shows. The racing industry needs to embrace change. You know why? Because it's coming in the form of sports betting. So let's talk about that. We have the subject of TVG and FanDuel getting together in a partnership, which looks like it'll be a positive for everyone involved. How do you see it? Well,
I was a skeptic at first. Yeah. And when I saw the numbers that FanDuel has in terms of customers, their website says that they've paid out winnings in fantasy bets to over 2.7 million customers. They now are part of the same family as TVG. They can market TVG and horse racing to those 2.7 million fantasy fans, and that community is only going to get bigger as more states actually offer real sports wagering instead of just fantasy. So this is one of those examples of 1 + 1 might equal 3, because we really need more people to be involved. That's one of the problems with these whales offshore. They're just in a lot of cases they're betting against each other.
Well, but and this is a great opportunity. There's no doubt about it. It's an enormous opportunity. Please take advantage of it, racing industry. Don't bury your head in the sand. And I think a lot of people are embracing it. However, one of the issues is you bring new people into the sport, then they see things like this past posting issue, and they're like, "Well, this sucks. I don't want to be a part of that."
Right.
So you got to get the ducks in a row. Let's get a system in place that works for everyone and works better, at least in terms of not having these perception issues at the very least. And then when people jump on board and start switching from sports betting to horse race betting, they'll have a better experience. They'll see a little bit more money in their pockets. Everyone wins.
And at some point, maybe a company like Equibase will realize that they can no longer gouge people selling data that is available for every other sport. The horse racing data should not cost money for the basic data. If you want to put some bells and whistles on it, like Daily Racing Form does with the various things, go ahead and charge for those bells and whistles. But basic data needs to be more accessible and needs to be free.
Well, we have a poll on our website to hear your thoughts on this subject with the legalization of sports betting, with these late odd changes issues. Is it time for racing to finally embrace fixed odds betting? Take the poll on our website, paulickreport.com. As I said earlier, Ray, the match series is moving to Delaware Park this weekend for the Jagow Stakes. It's the 3-year-olds and up sprint division. Are you enjoying the match series?
Yeah, I am. I like how they, this Saturday is a big day at Delaware Park with the Delaware Handicap. Elate's going in that race. I like the fact that it's part of big days, like it was last. It's part of big days. It's not the big race on the big day, but I think it's smart to put it on those days like this Saturday at Delaware Park.
Yeah, I think it's a cool thing to follow as well. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show presented by the Match Series. Talk to you soon.